Vince, rapid fire. Are you ready for it?
Is it time already?
Let's do it. It's
That's what I
here.
get for not following along with the outline. I'm ready.
More Marcus Freeman comments to get us started in rapid fire. Starting off, he went through at the start of his press conference today the top 3 things that he wanted to get out of fall camp.
There was 3 things as a head coach I really wanted to get out of fall camp. One is I wanted to build the depth of our team. I told you guys a couple weeks ago, there's a lot of guys that we're going to count on that do not have game experience. And so I'm pleased that at the depth at certain positions that we were able to really get valuable reps in camp. We really forced the coaches to play some of those, what we would call 2s in 1 situations, and let's see those guys develop and see what they can do when they're playing against some of the best. The second thing was I wanted to really get us physically ready to play a game, but also keep us healthy. I mean, it's something that I looked at the injuries from last year in fall camp, and I said, we got to find a better way to do this. And so I think we were down over half of the concussions. And I know we decreased in every soft tissue ligament injury in all facets in any body part. So we really decreased the injuries. And I know the weather helped, but I think we were 79% down in dehydration for fall camp. So that was really, our team did a great job. Just the sports performance team, the medical trainers, our coaches really did a great job at keeping the guys healthy and making sure we have everybody we need as we get ready to go to Dublin, Ireland. And the last thing we really want to do is really increase our leadership. I believe that's what will be our edge is our leadership. When we have a lot of leaders, right? We have a lot of guys that are in leadership positions, but I think the team did a great job. Our coaching staff did a great job of really promoting leadership, helping to build leadership, putting them in positions to, all of our seniors spoke to the team at some point about some of the lessons they've learned over their time here and really try to just create an environment of leadership to really promote that amongst our program.
Vince, I guess you become what you emphasize, because he said those were the 3 things that they were focused on. And like when you sit there and think about it, depth, health, keeping the injuries down, and leadership.
Yeah.
I mean, 3 big check marks, I think, on all counts.
I think the depth is better. I mean, we've been talking about this all, for the last 6 months, right? The depth is better than it's been ever across the board, that we've been covering the team, and that's, almost 20 years. It's the best depth that I've ever seen at all the positions. Now, of course, they've been deeper at various, things like that, but across the board, this is the deepest team that I can remember, right? So check mark, no doubt. How often, it's funny, I was listening to some of the guys in the media talking when we were at the first day of practice, and there was nobody in the corner on the bicycles and, doing the whole, the rehab, and they're like, oh, give it a day. Give it a day or two. Yep. It's going to be full. It never was full. I think at most the practices that I was at, it was like 2 or 3 guys, and in the past there's been like 8 or 9 or 10 guys over there. So huge check mark there. Yeah, you had a couple guys go down with the ACLs. Some of those things are just absolutely unavoidable, obviously, but that was huge. And then the leadership piece, he talked about in his opening statement about how there were 10 guys that got double-digit votes for captain.
Right.
Like, check mark again, I mean, I think this is a lot of it is coach speak. A lot of it is preseason team speak. I get that. It's the closest team they've ever seen, there's a lot of leadership, but I think there is a lot of leadership on this team. I mean, you could have gone 5, 6, 7 deep of guys that if they would have named them captain, you'd have been like, oh yeah, okay, I see that, and they went to 4, and I think they made great choices with the 4 guys that they did. But, I think he checked all, if those were the 3 things that he wanted, I think he nailed all 3 of them. No doubt about that.
I agree. And like the health thing, just like you said, you never saw an abundance of guys over there and hadn't really thought about it just until he started talking about it. Just the fact that wanting to avoid things like soft tissue injuries, in other words, hamstring pulls and calf pulls, whatever it happens to be, and concussions obviously being a big one. You didn't hear, there might have been 1 or 2 guys throughout the entire camp, but you didn't hear like, okay, this guy's in concussion protocol. He's still not back from concussion protocol, that kind of stuff. They did an outstanding job of that. And Stymie said, depth, health, and leadership. I would have been happy with wrap up and tackle, finish your blocks, never look to the sidelines when on offense. I think at least number 3, never look to the sidelines, should, I guess we'll find out on Saturday, but it should be taken care of with the fact that you've got a different offensive coordinator calling the shots. We definitely did not see any of that when we were out there during training camp.
No, we didn't. But we didn't see any last year either. So at least not that I remember. Maybe we did. Maybe I've just blocked it out.
Michael says, this is the same coaching staff that has improved the depth, yet we second guess them at every turn.
Well, but you know what, Michael? I agree with you on this one, but because of the depth, we second guess them, because the guys there that are in second place or are number 2 on the depth chart, we think can be a starter. So I think that's actually a nod to the coaching staff that they're doing a good job with these guys, because we like what the depth looks like, and we would be happy if the 2 was the 1 or the 1 was the 2 or whatever. So I think that's actually a compliment, Michael.
Yeah. Brent asked the status of Eli Raridon. He is still kind of working his way back into form, I guess, which I think is good.
Yeah, slow.
I don't know that we necessarily see him this week or next week, but I think that they need to. He has been out there practicing, but he is not in the top 3 on the depth chart going into this week. Sherwood is the number 3 tight end.
Right.
And in fact, I'll tell you, Mitchell Evans, number 1, Holden stays at number 2, and then Davis Sherwood. So not expecting to see Eli Raridon this week, but I think that, again, I think that's a good thing when he's still less than a year removed from tearing his ACL for a second time.
Correct. You need to, I believe there was an interview with Eli when they had the tight ends out there, and he actually said, I think I came back a little soon, the last time. Okay. Relax.
But he also said he was trying to be ready by the time this game came around. Which, again, of course, I thought was a little bit aggressive.
Yeah, that's very aggressive. I think they're doing it right. They're going to slow play him a little bit. Look, if he comes back even in the middle of the season, I'd be totally fine with that one. Totally fine.
Right. All right. So they are going to Ireland, like we were talking about. We were talking about the schedule that they're going to have. What about jet lag?
Hopefully, so we're staying. I don't know if the 2012 team stayed the night. They didn't stay the night, so they came back right after the game, whereas we're going to stay the night, get up early in the morning and fly back. So I've always been told coming west, like, you should be better because you're gaining hours. So I'm less concerned with the trip back, but still, everything's been planned out to the minute. What time we're leaving, when we're getting back, what are we doing when we get back? All those things have been planned out to the minute. And then you got to think about the next week of practice, right? Understand there still is going to be some fatigue when you travel from a different country back to here in Indiana. And so that has been taken into consideration in terms of the practice schedules for the following week. How do we make sure that we're able to get out what we need, but take into consideration it's going to be a full week of school. We played in a different country the previous Saturday, and we have to be ready to perform. Again, it all goes back. Let's look at the end result. We have to be ready to perform Saturday at 2:30. It's 2:30 or 3:30, whatever time we play here. Okay, now how do we make sure we have a plan that our guys feel physically ready to perform that next Saturday?
So, Vince, are you more worried about jet lag coming or going? Either, neither, both. What do you think?
This is going to sound incredibly disrespectful to Tennessee State, and I don't mean it that way. It just is what it is. If they were playing even Central Michigan or they were playing a MAC team,
okay,
I would feel I would have more worry about them coming back than I do of them going. Because normally after Dublin, they would have a bye week. That's normally how they do it. And that's originally, I believe, how this schedule was set up before they brought the Tennessee State game in, right? So I'm not saying that Tennessee State is a bye, but I am saying you should be able to handle your business even if you are not at your physical peak and ready to roll that week.
And I think that's essentially how they decided
I agree.
Because remember, there are 2 buys later on in October and November.
Yes.
We're going to have 2 buys, 2-3 weeks apart, I guess, in October and November. So there's already 2 buys because they're playing in week 0. So rather than take the bye in week 1 after playing in week 0, they're taking the bye later in the season. And just the way you explained it there, the fact that it's Tennessee State, it's like, well, should make up for it. And that's actually kind of how the question was posed. I guess I should have said, was when the 2012 team went over to Ireland last and played Navy over there, they came back. They were very sluggish the next week against Purdue. Remember, it was the squeaker that Tommy Rees had to come off the bench and help lead the comeback against Purdue. So was he more concerned coming or going? Like going, I think it's important to remember that Navy has to travel over there as well. So really going over there, I don't think it's nearly a big an issue. I do think that it is a little bit more of a concern coming back. But like you said, you should be able to sluggishly, against Tennessee.
Exactly.
It's like I hesitate to say it because you said it earlier in the show. We said it against Stanford last year, and how did that turn out?
Yeah, well, and Travis says everyone thought Marshall was a bye too, though. Okay, I get what you're saying. Marshall still plays at the Division I level.
Right.
Tennessee State does not.
Tennessee State does not. Right.
Okay, and as much as I am not overly happy about the fact they're playing a 1AA school, I understand why they're doing it. It's Marshall would wipe the floor with Tennessee State. That's the reality of the situation. And so I'm not looking past Tennessee State, but they wouldn't have put Tennessee State the week after going to Dublin if they didn't have some confidence in what they were doing. How about that?
Yeah. Chi-Town says, but Navy is used to being sleep deprived. I think you could make the case that, especially coming out of during training camp, like most Division I football players are probably sleep deprived to some extent.
That's a good point.
Especially when they're practicing in the morning. Like getting up in the morning is not the thing that teenagers want to do.
Right.
And Chi-Town says Tennessee State, not even a good team in the subdivision. Yeah, I mean, we can talk about the Tennessee State aspect of this next week, but I'm not overly concerned. There is a chance that they come out and don't look great against Tennessee State.
Yeah,
but still win by 3 or 4 touchdowns
or more. I mean, just because that's just what it is. I mean, that's
yeah.
They could I'm sorry, but they could back into a 40-point win, and not look good doing it. That is an absolute possibility. They could absolutely do that. And it's still a big win over a 1AA school, and that's what you're supposed to do, but they could still look very sluggish doing that. And that's why you put Tennessee State where you did. And like John says, Notre Dame should have scheduled a better team than Tennessee State. Yeah, they should have, but it should have been like week 9, not in week 2. If it was a better team, it should have been one of those later buys, and this should have been a buy. I would have been really nervous if this was a Big Ten team or something along those lines. That would have.
If you had the choice, would you have just taken the bye in week 2 rather than playing Tennessee State and then just had one bye during the season?
100%.
After you get into that.
Yes, absolutely.
I realize you start, you stop, and then you start back up again and all that.
Okay.
But yeah,
I would have 100% done that. That's the way I would have scheduled this. Like if we're going to play in week 0 and we're going to be overseas, we're getting a bye the next week. Like that's how this is going to go. That's one of the kind of the subplots of this entire schedule that Notre Dame has this year. What do they play? 8 games in a row, and then they have 2 byes in a 4-week span or something, or 4-game span. It's something along those lines. How's that going to shake up? What's that going to look like? What are the injuries going to look like? Are these guys going to be banged up by the time they get, there's a lot of question marks about the schedule for me. And they jostled it around so that they could get Tennessee on the schedule, and not sure how I feel about it right now. We'll see how it all plays out.
I agree. Fill in the blank, Vince. Notre Dame's biggest training camp surprises were blank.
This one was really tough for me. I sat around and I was thinking about this one for a while because Well, I mean, the biggest surprise was the guard situation, both of them, both guard situations. I said earlier that we all anticipated it was going to be Billy Schrauth and Andrew Kristofic, and it's Pat Coogan and Rocco Spindler. So I think the rest of the depth chart is very similar to what we thought it would be. I think, listening to Coach Rudolph I think I've been very happy with what he's bringing to the table. A lot of the things kind of went how I kind of anticipated that they would go. So I would say the guard position and how it all shook out is my biggest surprise.
And I still think the left guard even more than the right. You can say that they're both surprising. DJ Brown holding on at least for now. Like, again, like how much of that is now, like, defensively, you can see where you are going to start some different guys that is Navy specific. Does DJ Brown hold on to that though? Like, how quickly does Antonio Carter potentially become the safety? He did talk a little bit about there being some learning curve moving from cornerback to safety, but at least for right now, DJ Brown is at the top of the depth chart there. And I don't want to say major surprise, but still a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just how impressive the defensive line looked. I think we've got to put that up there as well. I'm not completely shocked because Jason Onye had a nice spring, but across the board, Riley Mills looks like a difference-making defensive tackle. He's been a good defensive lineman the last couple of years. He looks like a total difference-making type guy. And you can throw Jason Onye in there and Howard Cross. There's just depth across the board. It was the development of that position after watching them last year. I think we would all agree was a major concern going into this offseason, and where they are right now, how they look going into this season compared to a year ago, night and day difference. So again, I'm not like shocked that the line is at least competent, but to me, they're far above competent. They're difference making, looking
that's a good one.
And that is a surprise to me.
That is a good one because that was a massive, question mark going into the fall, and I think we got a lot of those questions answered by watching this D line do what they do, because this is still going to be a really good offensive line, and the D line, they more than held their own all summer or all fall long. You know what I mean? And I think people are going to be really happy with the way the defensive line, because it doesn't have like the star power maybe that other defensive lines have had, but the depth and them just getting after it, I think is going to be awesome to watch.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And it's going to help the linebackers.
Oh, 100%.
Help the linebackers.
Yes.
A ton. Stymie said, most surprising, losing strength and conditioning coach on the eve of training camp. That's for sure. I mean,
you're not wrong.
That was a huge shock.
You're not wrong, but he's at all of his son's football games. I can vouch for that one. It's pretty funny. Because his son will point up in the stands and he's, dad's going crazy. And it's kind of fun to watch him be dad, and not have to worry about other stuff. And he's definitely enjoying it. So it's good.
What'd you think of Sam Hartman's little Under Armour gift announcement to the team, the shoes that he's giving to his teammates?
I love the gesture. Right? Because it sounded like they were coming to Sam to, work on his NIL deal and all that. And he's like, I want to give it to the guys, whatever. But at the same time, the skeptic in me is like, don't they get free Under Armour shoes all the time?
That's the first thing I thought. It's like they get everything they need. Like, did they need Sam Hartman to give them more Under Armour?
Was this like an extra, an extra thing that they weren't going to get? Like, I don't know. So I don't know if they were just trying to shape it to be like Sam's giving them this, but like, I don't know. It felt a little hollow. Like if he was going to give them stuff, maybe not the team that, the company that's already sponsoring them. I don't know.
It's like the company that's paying more than $10 million a year, apparently to supply all this stuff. I thought that's what their job was. So that's the only thing that kind of surprised me. It's like, Sam Hartman's giving his teammates more shoes. Oh, okay. By the way, I saw when I was walking to the press conference today, I saw some people carting a big cart of shoes. I don't know if they were those shoes or not, but there were stacks of shoe boxes on this cart that they were.
Just want to say, hey, you got any 12s over there? It's like Go Fish. You got any 6s? You got any 12s?
That's right.
Crystal
says, are they playing in a dome? Could weather be a factor? They are not playing in a dome, and I suppose weather could be a factor. I have not looked at the forecast.
I've heard rain, but I've heard that the chance of the rain has diminished as they've gotten closer. It's one of those kinds of things.
I mean, it is Ireland, so
right, exactly. So you kind of
have Emerald Isle for a reason. They get plenty of moisture.
Yeah, kind of have to figure that's going to happen. So yeah.
Greg says, do we think they'll go beyond the 2 deep at any point other than mop-up duty these next 2 to 4 weeks?
Beyond the 2 deep? No. I don't think they're going to go beyond the 2 deep. I think the 2 deep is who's actually going to play. And if they go beyond the 2 deep, it'll be mop-up duty.
Because of mop-up duty.
Yeah. Right.
They're not just going to throw a 3rd or 4th string. The only again, like defensive line, maybe, just because I think that they can go 10 or 11 deep, but 10 or 11 might, guy number 10 or 11 might also depend on situation. So I don't think they're just going to tinker and throw guys out there when the game is potentially on the line still, just to get them out there on the field. That's what mop-up duty is for.
And there's a reason that some of the positions had 2 guys, some of the positions had 3. Those are the guys that are going to play, that are going to see time. Now, outside of like the second offensive line, that's obviously not going to be the case. But other positions, there's a reason there were certain guys where they were. You know what I mean?
And Crystal makes a good point. Running back, you'll see at least 3. I mean, that's fair. Just because, but again, as Dylan McCullough has detailed, he's got this list of 9 to 10 jobs. So you're going to see, I would say we're going to see at least 4 running backs out there this Saturday.
I agree. Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Yeah. But
apparently Hartman got the team beats as well. So
that's
what should have been publicized. Because
I didn't hear anything about the beats. I thought it was all about these, whatever the shoe was called.
Apparently got everybody gold beats. Okay. Cool. I hope that's the case, because that's what should have been publicized, because they're not a direct sponsor of Notre Dame football. Like that would have made this question a little bit different for me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. You don't see Beats by Dre on the front of the jersey, the little Beats, the little B logo.
No. These are Beats by Hartman.
Apparently. Yeah. Fill in the blank. Hartman's touchdown over-under for the season is 26.5. His passing yards over-under is 2,800.5 yards. It would be blank if he goes under on either of those props.
A disastrous season. It would be bad. I mean, either that means he was injured or they are very ineffective offensively. And I'm not going to say because I'm not going to throw anybody else under the bus. I was very wrong about what this offense was going to look like. So those are the 2 options. It's either Hartman gets hurt.
That's what it would mean. It would mean that you were wrong. Okay.
It means I'm wrong and Hartman got hurt. Either way, that's a disaster.
Drew Pine and Tyler Buckner combined for over 2,600 yards last year. Now, granted, this is regular season and that includes the bowl game, but still, they combined for 2,600. Drew Pine threw 22 touchdown passes and over 2,000 yards by himself. And so you're telling me that Sam Hartman isn't going to come in and just light up both of those numbers this year? It's just, I still don't get like where, and this is a Vegas number. I don't get why they have the line on this set so low.
If they're looking for action,
very odd to me.
I don't know how they're not going to get it on one side.
But it hasn't moved at all. Like it's been out there for a while and it has not moved at all. They have stayed. Maybe the passing yards might have come up a little bit, but the touchdown passes at 26.5 is nuts. I don't see any way he's under 3,000 yards. I don't see any way he's under 30 touchdown passes.
And I think even 30's low. I think it's going to be mid 30s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's like Lamrek said, I'd expect an average of 3 touchdowns a game, which equals 36 touchdowns. That seems doable. I agree, because there's going to be times where he's going to have more than that. And there's going to be, an average of 3. I think that's very reasonable expectation, a very reasonable expectation.
Mm-hmm. Xavier Watts, Jack Kiser, Marist Liufau shared the team lead against Navy in the game last season with a team lead 8 tackles against the midshipmen. Scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that one of those 3 will lead the Irish again in the matchup this week?
Is it possible? Yes. Is it probable? No. So I'm going to give it a 2 because I think J.D. Bertrand is going to lead the team in tackles on Saturday. And I don't think it's going to be close because he's going to be playing the middle of the field. They're going to hand it off to the fullback a bunch of times. He's going to get a bunch of tackles, and I think that he is going to have the team lead.
I think of these 3, Watts has the best chance.
Sure.
To me. But I would put this at like maybe a 5 because of what you just said. Remember, J.D. Bertrand didn't play last year against Navy, and that's part of why these 3 did share the team lead. So J.D.'s going to be back. He would be the one that I would peg as my leader, and I would put Xavier Watts after him. I'm not sure about the other 2. Like, really curious to see how these 2 are used this year. Now, again, this is a one-off game, but I don't think Marist Liufau is going to see the field the way he did last year, where he was the defensive leader in snaps last year. I think we're going to see more of Kiser, but I am curious to see how these 2 are going to be deployed and how it's going to be split up this season.
Very interested to see how the linebacker rotation looks. I was curious about it going into fall, but I'm even more curious about it going into game 2 or 3, not necessarily game 1, but what's that linebacker rotation going to look like? Again, you can't take anything, what you're going to see on Saturday defensively, good, bad, and different.
Throw it out the window.
Just flush it. Yeah. It's just not the defense that you're going to see. So
the only thing that you can take from it is how do they tackle? Going back to what Stevie said. How do they wrap up? How do they tackle? Do they make tackles, or are they arm tackling and missing tackles? Right. Andre asks, which ranking system do you prefer? Power ranking or poll ranking?
Depends on who's doing it, because a lot of the power rankings are ridiculous, but then some of the poll rankings are ridiculous. So I guess excuse me, I did a little Greg Brady there. I think poll rankings, I guess I like them a little bit more, because I think everybody's definition of a power ranking is a little bit different.
I agree. The power ranking, it's just like everyone's, when they do these power rankings, they've all got their own formulas and stuff like that. And it's like, do I really buy into this? How much do I really sort of understand, what they value, because like the power index, for example, like a big part of their formula, I believe, is returning production, which Notre Dame doesn't have very much of. So how much does that really mean to Notre Dame? I prefer the polls.
Yep.
Really just prefer the college football playoff ranking, because that's the one that ultimately matters in the end.
Yep.
Right. All right. And Brent asks, if I went to Campagnos when I visited Monterey on my vacation last month. Short story long. Yes, I did. But here's the thing. We were in Monterey on a Tuesday. Turns out Campagnos is closed on Tuesdays. So it's like, what am I going to do? So we were going south, went south to see my sister for a couple days in San Luis Obispo, which is a few hours away. Friday morning, we got up to drive back to San Jose. We flew in and out of San Jose because it was cheaper. We were driving back to San Jose. My wife had called Campagnos the night before and said, look, we're going through the area. We were in town earlier this week. You guys were closed the day we were there, and went through the whole spiel about my husband was there, used to eat your sandwiches all the time when he was in the Army and blah, blah, blah. Could you open up like a half an hour early so we could stop and get a sandwich? So they did. He was a little, wasn't completely happy about it, but he did it.
Wow.
It wasn't him. He sent in, I believe it was another family member who worked there. I gave her a nice tip, for coming in early to do it, but they did it. And you know the sandwich that I got? The Navy Special.
Wow, look at you.
The Navy Special. It is the Italian sub is what the Navy Special is called. So fabulous, as always. I was glad that I got my Compagno's sandwich for the first time in 35 years.
Been waiting for it for 35 years. How does it ever live up?
35 years.
That's the question.
I was doubtful that it was going to live up, but it did.
Okay.
Great sandwich.
All by
Highly
itself.
recommend it if you're going through Monterey, California. Don't stop on Tuesday, though, because they're closed on Tuesdays.
It's a random day to be closed.
Got to drive up the hill a little bit. It is worth it. Fabulous place. Highly recommend it. Brent knows. He goes there, I think, quite a bit. So, well, that's going to do it. I don't know about that, Romlek. My wife was doing the moving and the shaking on that. She's the one that convinced him. How did I like the price hike? They weren't cheap, but those sandwiches, man, like a half a sandwich is the equivalent to anybody else's full sandwich.
Oh, gotcha.
Much. So you get a lot. You get a lot with those Compagnos. So I would
nice.
I could still live with it. All right, well, that's going to do it for today. We've got plenty of Notre Dame Navy talk as we go throughout this week. It is game week. We've got Bill Wagner. He's going to preview Navy for us on tomorrow's show. We've got more rapid fire, and Vince and I are going to get into some deep dives on some Navy guys on Wednesday's show as well. As deep as we can get anyway.
Yeah, you know.
Colin, you spelled it right. Compagnos.
Nice.
Google it. All right, hit the like button on your way out. And, of course, subscribe, rate, and review. And we'll talk to you tomorrow on IB Nation Sports Talk.